Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today we learned about a very disturbing letter sent to a 15-year-old Indigenous girl that used the words, quote, Treaty Indian instead of her name. To the Premier, is this the only letter that has gone out with such an offensive name? If not, how many more are there, and have you contacted each of the recipients to apologize?
The Honourable Premier.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Let me begin by saying that I share the member's concern about this letter and about this incident. The language is completely inappropriate and it is culturally offensive and it should never have been used. And let me take this opportunity to offer my personal apologies to the person in question who received the letter, and should we discover that there are any others, that apology would be extended to them as well. We take this incident extremely seriously, and I understand that the Health Minister, along with Health Services, is working very quickly to prevent it and also to move forward.
Thank you. First supplemental.
Thank you, Madam Premier. I hope that you will undertake a thorough investigation and commit to inform the House of the results of that investigation as soon as possible. Now, Mr. Speaker, this is and should be a teaching moment. I'm glad to know the Premier and I agree that this should never have happened. While I commend her and her government for the steps they have taken towards reconciliation, very clearly, not enough has changed within all aspects of the provincial government. Again, to the Premier, what specifically are you doing to ensure that this doesn't happen again anywhere else in the provincial government?
Honourable Premier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and to the member for the important question. I am going to talk about Alberta Health Services and specifically because this is where the incident happened, and I too share my disappointment and frustration and anger that this person wasn't addressed with their name, rather with a title that has a deep historical legacy, Mr. Speaker. And anti-racism education is certainly an area of focus for our government, making sure that we break down the barriers, making sure that groups that are already disproportionately access health care less frequently and have lower life expectancy should not feel that continued institutionalized racism impacts their ability to do so, Mr. Speaker.
Second supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, privacy is of paramount importance, especially when dealing with health information. Now, I'm concerned that this letter is not only grossly culturally insensitive, but if there are letters with confidential health information being sent to generic names rather than individual Albertans, there is the potential that this represents a significant breach of not only trust but of privacy. Earlier today, I wrote to the Privacy Commissioner asking that she investigate to determine if there has in fact been a breach of the Health Information Act or any other relevant statute. To the Premier, will you support my request for this investigation? Will you ensure that the Privacy Commissioner receives the complete cooperation of any and all government departments?
Thank you, Honourable Member. Thank you, Honourable Member. Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and to the member for the important question. We certainly respect the Privacy Commissioner's range of scope and being able to identify the appropriate places for these investigations. Regardless of what she chooses to do, we certainly are, AHS has launched their own investigation into this matter and will do their part there. And certainly if the Privacy Commissioner chooses to do her investigation as well, we will very happily comply. Our goal is to make sure that we address what happened in this situation so that it never happens again, Mr. Speaker.